Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Late Night with Lancey, also called After Open Bar sometimes, because it is right after Open Bar. We are going to be talking about Alien Earth, the first two episodes of which have now been released on Disney. I have seen them. I do have a Disney account, so I've watched them properly. And I'm going to be bringing on a couple of my guests. But if you do want to come on, if you're watching the show and you want to come on, especially if you're a fellow YouTuber, just give me a shout and let me know in the chat, and I'll see if I can get you on. As long as you've seen Alien Earth, because obviously we want to hear your views. Also in the chat, let us know what you think. Give us your rating out of 10 or appropriate emoji, whatever may be more appropriate. Let me welcome my co-hosts this evening. First up, it is the king of the meow mix, Rachel Percy Art. Welcome.
Oh, I'm the king of the meow mix, huh?
Do you know what meow mix is? It's a cat food that used to be called meow mix.
I'm a winner.
Do you get that in the States?
Yeah, we still have it. My cats aren't fans, but yeah.
Wasn't that the logo? Yeah, I'm a winner because I eat meow mix. I think was that something that rings a bell? Something like I'm a winner.
It sounds familiar.
And then there's also like a really posh cat food. Maybe the I'm a winner is for the posh cat food. It was slightly more expensive. The advertising campaign was, but this cat eats blah 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 blah, which doesn't smell and look like poop. So this cat's a winner. I think it maybe was to do with that. I can't remember. Someone who might be able to clarify this, because he loves creatures with 4 legs, or is it 8? I can't remember. Critical.
4 legs is so 2024, man. 8 or more, thank you. Or 0 for snakes.
Do you also own cats?
No, I've got too many things that cats would either eat or would eat the cat. So it's just not a good idea.
I do have like visions of a cocooned cat in the ceiling in some corner somewhere in your house. Proctophile, do you want to pop on, mate? Have you seen Alien Earth episodes 1 and 2? If you have, mate, let me know in the chat. I will drop you a link. I thought you might pop on today. Let me know and I'll pop on.
I want to know what Rachel thought about the cat scene. She's traumatized.
Oh my god. I want a word with whoever came up with that idea.
We're gonna get into it. Don't you worry about that. Also, just as a general rule of thumb, and it may be that no one's going to actually tune in and listen to this important point, because my fellow YouTubers are quite busy. But sometimes you might get an invite to my channel via a third party. So it might be, for example, we're doing an end of the episode of the Nielsen ratings, and somebody says to me, "Oh, I'm going on so-and-so's channel in a little bit." And that might be a channel that I might watch from time to time. And I might say to that person, "Oh, do you know what? Let them know they're always welcome here." If I don't sit down and write you a personal invite, which is what I would normally do, certainly what I did in 2023 and 2024, there are multiple reasons for this. One is because I'm writing, starring, and directing, and also doing a great deal of the production design for 7 Magnificent Egos, which is a stage play that's on in London in about, give or take, 8 weeks. I've also I'm in the final stages of the Back to Raving 50 book, which is a 500-page book with 40 chapters in it, one of which I just realised has half of the chapter missing today because I was proofreading it in between. So I've also got that on my plate. Plus, I'm also in post-production for Mauler's film, which still isn't completed. Plus, I've just been given a freelance job to write another biography for someone else. Plus, I've also just been asked to do a complete rewrite on a script that was previously set in Miami that now needs to be set in New York. That is just the work that I'm juggling right now, my commitments. So that's why I'm not doing so many live streams at the minute. This time last year, I was doing between 2 to 3 live streams a week, including every Sunday without fail, pretty much. You will notice I haven't been doing Sundays much recently. That is simply because I don't have the time. So it is just with me, it's a question of sometimes I think about these things and I will say them when I think about them, but I don't always have the time to jump on and reach out to people. But if you are a fellow YouTuber, you're always welcome on Late Night with Lancey, because as it says, they're open to all YouTubers. That's what anyone is welcome. The Nielsen ratings, I don't like to have more than 4 people on in one time. It gets a bit unwieldy, too many spider legs, that kind of thing. So I try to keep it to 4 people. I've had up to 6 on there sometimes in the past. And sometimes I'll bring on people for a little bit, but normally I kind of have it in my head how I want that show to go, and it's less organic than this. It's a bit more scripted. So the same people don't come on every week, but that just gives you some insight into the balls I'm juggling right now. Talk of the devil, not literally the devil himself, but it is his right-hand man, Lord of Toxicity's here.
Hey, aliens everywhere.
Indeed, and with a British accent, no less. Love it. So, yeah, well, let's. Okay, so when we talked about this yesterday, unfortunately, we didn't have Tox with us because he was doing another show that was scheduled way in advance. We weren't supposed to be on Wednesdays, of course. But when we talked about this yesterday, I was quite optimistic because I will admit the first episode for me had a lot of positives, and
Agreed.
I did quite enjoy it. And I can list those positives out. I would say 60% of the cast did a really good job. 20% were okay. 20% were either pretty poorly written or pretty poorly acted, or a combination of the two. And that was mainly the younger actors, and that's not necessarily the younger actors' fault. But there were some very poorly written characters, especially these kind of young security reaction force type, which I'm going to talk about them at some length today. So the special effects were fine. The consistency of the technology, very good. Some of the writing in the first episode was good, and some of it was very poor, but there was a lot of good setup. So I had quite high hopes. And then we got into halfway into the second episode, it started getting a bit exciting, and then it just started becoming really stupid. And I was thinking, like, this is really dumb. We've got line after line of really awful expositional dialogue stating the obvious about something we're looking at that feels like it's been written by an 8-year-old. And of course, I checked the credits of the second episode, and you know, you've got Noah Hawley, who's very experienced and knows how to run a show. And then the second episode is directed by somebody different, and it's written by somebody different. And I just feel like he probably had to argue the toss in a few different meetings about, you know, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. I bet he did not win every argument where this show is concerned. Anyway, so episode 2 was borderline pants, and really dragged it down. And I am still going to watch the show. I want to see where it goes, but I have grave concerns that where it's going is into the toilet bowl, spiraling quite quickly, and we may see the biggest alien turd yet. But that's a shame because there were some good things happening initially. So some of the things I want to talk about are, first of all, there's a really weird inconsistency with this sort of search and rescue squad. So it's a search and rescue squad set on a planet in the future. So this feels like a sort of combination between an emergency medical reaction team, of which one of our main characters is supposed to be the main medic for this squad, but they're also clearly trained to go into combat. Therefore, his role would be that of a combat medic, which means he would be able to handle a gun. He does pick up a gun at one point. We see he does sort of know how to use it, but he just comes across as an untrained pussy who, you know, wouldn't say boo to a goose. So how's this guy going to work on open wounds and stuff like that? So
these are not tough macho hombres at all.
No, they're not. They're not Marines. But the funny thing is how we're introduced to them is as a group of macho hombres, where they're all sort of on the roof, working out, trying to be Vasquez and all that kind of thing. It feels like a military unit. Then we're sort of told they're kind of a soft military unit. I guess they're kind of internal city police, that military police that serve a multitude of duties, including search and rescue, perhaps. I mean, I'm trying to explain the film.
Blue might want in, Lance.
He's not here. oh, but he wants to come on. Blue, if you want to come on, I will send you the link, mate. So I had a massive issue with them, and they, for me, really undermined the film, because it's like, well, it's a search and rescue squad, but you're armed, so therefore, and you're pointing your weapons. You don't know what happened to the ship. It could have been taken over by pirates, so there might be armed bad guys on board that have survived the crash. Therefore, you're an armed unit going into a potential combat situation. So everybody under those circumstances should be some kind of military, have some sort of.
Well, they should be the best of the best. We're told this guy's a trillionaire.
Yeah.
He's the world's first trillionaire. He should have the most badass, efficient team in the world. And he's got.
But it's not his guys going in, though, is it? It's not his guys.
Well, they work for him.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. They are Prodigy. They are his people.
So they're the nearest. Okay, so they're the nearest unit that respond. But then you've got his other guys that come later on the spaceship. I'm not talking about the kids. I'm not talking about the robots. No. I'm talking about the soldiers that go in the 2 trucks with the medic.
I figured they were just the guys on top of the roof, to be fair. But yeah, they're all his. They're all working for him. Yeah,
because it's his city, so everybody in it is his.
Yeah, Wendy
that
says
to me is very unclear. That's very unclear.
Yeah.
It says a Prodigy city, so everything within that city is controlled by Prodigy.
Yeah, the city is New Siam, and the actual island, I think, was called Neverland. Another piece. I got the
island's Neverland, and I got the guys coming from there are all his. But I didn't get that the city was all his as well. That went by me.
He's got jurisdiction over the entire thing. That's why Weyland-Yutani can't just go in and claim the spaceship, because it's his territory.
No, I got that Weyland-Yutani wasn't allowed there, but I wasn't sure if there were sort of other factions that kind of controlled different elements, like these guys.
I've got a feeling they
different company or a different branch of the government, whether they would
they've each got
sort of the loose government,
territory.
You know. I don't know.
One of them's on the moon, so one of the government's one of the corps.
Yeah, I heard all that, and somebody else has got Mars and Saturn, and I heard all of that stuff. But I just felt like these guys were set up as a kind of a squad of Marines. Then it turns, but when they actually go in, they just sort of doing the military thing at one point. But then they're acting completely crap the rest of the time. I just found that really naff.
Like, let's think about this for a second. They're sent in there primarily as search and rescue. Yeah, they're sent there to help people get out of the building, and they send one medic.
Yep.
Right.
One.
Yeah. It's
when you think about the event that would be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When he goes in there, he does say, like, medic tent to the left, so there is obviously other medical facilities there. But yeah, he's like the only medic in the team. He's the only one in there. It's a huge ship. Why do you send one team? It's a huge ship. We see how big the ship is. And he's crap.
Yeah.
His way of seeing if somebody is alive is he slaps them in the face.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, to be fair, he has enough plot armor that he's indestructible anyway. So
what should have happened is when they arrived at the scene, we should have had, your regular ambulances and that kind of stuff. All of that should have been there, and then these guys should have been. We're here to secure it in case it was some kind of military conflict that caused this ship to crash. We don't know. So we're going to go in and secure it first. We also don't know what's on board it. And you've got a whole load of ambulances standing by with various medics. That would at least sort of balance the fact that, okay, and this is a military unit going in with a medic of their own who will also assist people as and when. But he should be a
technicians or something as well, because the engines are still firing.
I kind of liked that. I thought that was kind of fun.
Which is kind of crazy, really, because it's one thing if the ship drifts in under its own sort of momentum and crashes into the thing. But if those are engines that are designed to propel it through space at stupid speeds, it should have evaporated on impact of the island and made a crater.
There should be a crater. Yeah, there should be a crater like a mile wide. This city should be gone. There should be nothing there.
You know, the spaceship
none of that made any sense.
More of a mess than that.
When you civilians are done chatterboxing about what you think the military does and how it works and stuff, let me know and I'll go ahead and explain it to you. I'll mansplain it.
Well, what I was trying to say, Toxic, is it wasn't really clear to me. I think it was very mixed in terms of this unit's function. What is it normally? We're first of all, we're presented with military guys all being hard, working out on the roof. Again, it's United Colours of Benetton, all that shit. I don't care about any of that. But then when they're on the soldiers, they're like a bunch of kids playing laser tag. And it's also, you two go down that corridor over there and, you know, go and get isolated and get killed. You two go this way. They would be moving through as a unit, surely. You know, securing one section of the ship, moving to the next one. It's a massive ship. There are 2 units, incidentally, because we know there are 2 vehicles and there's roughly the same number of people in each vehicle. So I get that there are other units doing this that we're not seeing. But even so, breaking up into pairs just seems like a really stupid thing to do.
It's all right. Daddy Toxic is going to explain this to you, civilians. So here's the deal. These guys are called POGs. POG, that means person other than grunt. It means that they carry weapons and they wear uniform and they have rank, but they're no better than basically Paul Blart mall cop. That's what they are. They're security contractors. Now, you might get lucky and you might get a security contractor for Blackwater or Aegis that is an ex-paratrooper, military policeman who's super toxic and will save your life, but you may just as well get some dum-dum who's only ever done like mall security before. That's what these guys are. The people from Aliens, the squad from Aliens, those were Marine Force Recon, Colonial Marines, meaning the very best of the best. You know, that's your Navy SEALs, your Force Recon, like that. That's what they were. However, the company decided to hinder them because they knew that in certain circumstances, this team of badasses would wipe out the aliens. They didn't want the aliens wiped out, but they couldn't turn around and say, hey, we want you to make sure you secure it. So they send in their company man and they hindered the team by putting them with a cherry lieutenant who never had any combat drops except for this 38 simulated. So that's how they accomplished that. So they had the team of badasses, but they also hindered the mission. Very similar in this storytelling with these bunch of dum-dums. But I do agree the medic has superb plot armor. It's amazing. But beyond that, this is just a team of like security goons that have some rank. They're what is called paramilitary, not actual military. They're not real soldiers.
So if this cargo is so important to this guy, why would he send them and not proper?
Because he needs to be able to get the speed. Okay, go ahead.
I don't think any of us are under the illusion that these are military. At most, they're city security forces, and they are a search and rescue team.
That is a lot.
That's what I got from it.
But that's what I got after the initial setup. But the initial setup is very confusing. It's all these are buff people working out, and you know,
there's no characterization at all.
They look like a bunch of candy asses to me. I don't know. When I looked at the squad from Aliens 1986, those look like that looks like a team of people I don't want to mess with. Even the 3 females on the team.
Yeah. Within 3 seconds, Vasquez lets you know that she is not to be fucked.
Vasquez, Pharaoh, and Dietrich, all 3 females look like they could eat concrete and shit plaster. You know, they didn't look like people to mess around with. And then you got Ripley on top of that. So, I mean, they had a pretty good, but without saying it, it was show, don't tell. This group of little candy asses looks like, you know, I mean, I could send my little sister to go deal with them. So, I mean, you know, but that was probably the point. Plus the fact that they were the closest first responders too. You have to take that into account.
Yeah. They had to send in somebody. That was kind of what I got. So these guys sort of got that deal.
But then this is another problem that I have, is the fact that they must have known this ship's coming in. You're telling me they haven't got sensors that can tell you look like a ship half a mile long?
Well, actually, I didn't have the big problem that everybody else had with that. My take on that was they did pick up the ship. The ship was off course. What were they going to do? Okay, they have to launch another ship and try and get people on board to stop it. Incredibly difficult to dock with a moving ship that's got no pilot in a limited time that it was going to take to enter Earth's atmosphere. I think those scenes all probably happened, and they probably did try to do something. We just didn't see them.
Yeah, so that brings up another problem.
That's a cop-out.
That brings up another problem.
Go for it.
Because
this one,
they were beyond the moon when Marrow is locking everything down and he's going into a survival pod. And that says 4 seconds to impact. With Earth, they specify 4 seconds to impact with Earth. How fast is that ship going to make it from beyond the moon?
I figured it was 4 seconds to impact with the satellite. Did it definitely say Earth?
But they don't say that. They say with Earth. Planetary impact in 4 seconds. Are you sure about that?
Because 4 seconds from the
I'm
Earth
pretty dang sure about it.
That's actually pretty much faster than light speed, I think.
Yeah, it just showed me that they were not thinking about it.
It's 8 minutes from the sun to the Earth. So, I mean, 4 seconds.
Yeah, it's just showing me they didn't think about any of this. They didn't think about how things actually do work.
The writing
things don't work the way they're showing them. Like,
you have a guy
if you want
in a death situation, so he's nearly just been murdered by an alien and shot by a cyborg dude, and he takes time out to reminisce about a baseball game.
Yeah,
I was just like,
because humans do that.
Because you need to have this exposition, you need to have this moment with his sister. The writing is, it's awful. It is so bad.
Yeah, I think that
it's all exposition too.
The story has promise, but it's the execution and the dialogue and the characterization, not necessarily the fault of the actors, because there is some very good acting here. But
I think there's some good acting. I think there's some terrible acting.
There's some great acting.
What on earth is that guy wearing? The genius dude. He's wearing a suit that's 3 sizes too big and no shoes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a genius, so he doesn't have to wear shoes. When you're a genius, you can go barefoot to a premiere.
They just did it to give him this quirky Peter Pan complex.
That's a cast photo.
That's all it is.
That's not the characters. That's the actors.
I know. I'm telling you, he's embracing his character.
He's method acting, is he?
He's so into the role that Plus, also he got hit by a shrink machine, and that's why he's put the clothes on after being hit by the shrink machine.
Tom Hanks and Big,
But he got as far as putting the coin in the Voltar machine, and then his mum suddenly called him away, so he only got partly shrunk.
See, I think the thing that upsets me about this film, the series, is it's got some really cool concepts that I would love to see in a sci-fi series that is not aliens. The whole idea of taking children and putting them in robot bodies, be soldiers, that's incredible. That could be a series all on its own.
I like that
don't know what to do with it.
I like that idea with the terminal children and stuff, but I mean the Peter Pan thing, it was fine. It was pushed to the envelope just a little bit too much for me.
It's super.
It's overdone.
It's like,
overdone.
Not only are we going to do this Wendy thing, then they're all going to be named after the Lost Boys, and I was like, oh God, really?
Yeah, exactly. Like they all named themselves after one of the Lost Boys. Even someone that chose to call themselves Slightly. They didn't even choose to have a name.
I mean, I don't think Peter Pan's that's relevant amongst kids now, let alone in 90 years.
It's just because they have the dang rights to it.
That's it.
They could get away with it. Oh,
well,
I'm sorry. You enjoyed it.
I did think there were some things about this had promise. There's definitely some things about this that has promise, but it's been so badly handled. The entire first scene is a clumsy exposition dump that doesn't work. Why are they taking a break out of cryo to have something to eat and go back into cryo?
Yeah, when they only have 4 months left.
I rewatched the first episode, and one of the things that actually annoyed me about it when I rewatched it the second time were these sudden sort of breakaway montage clips of stuff that either was going to happen or has happened.
Oh, you mean like the in the mind's eye flashback type things?
Yeah, the sort of in the mind's eye flashback or flash forward in some cases. And we kind of had them from the get-go. And at first I thought this was something to do with the psyche of an android. Then I realised, actually, no, this is just a load of people that have sat round an executive producer committee table and gone, oh, I'll tell you what, this would be good. And it's just not. It doesn't really serve a purpose. It's just either an editor went, oh, you know what, I could do this. This was a good idea, and somebody didn't rein him in, or a producer said this would be a good idea. Let's put it in, and Noah Hawley didn't rein him in. Well, Noah Hawley thought it would be a good idea, and no one reined him in.
No one reined him in because he's the showrunner. Yeah. The thing is, in the first film,
it just doesn't really work. It doesn't really serve a purpose. I don't want to see in an alien film. I want suspense, build up, drama, tension, action, and good characters and science fiction. What I don't want is a preview of what's to come to the characters you've all just introduced me to 2 minutes ago in the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, they're all dead in the next scene.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Showing us a load of characters that don't matter.
Do we honestly think we're going to learn who they are? We're going to learn anything about any of those characters?
I think we should have had an hour-long episode that was all just set on the ship, that ended with the black guy, Babu Sasi's character, which ended with him betraying them, and so the last few got killed.
And maybe even seeing how the aliens escaped.
Circling towards Earth, and maybe he set some kind of recorded message that fools Earth into thinking it is coming into dock, but then at the last minute we realise actually it's going to crash. That would have been the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
Beginning of episode 2 would have been the introduction of Neverland. Halfway through that episode, we get the story that the ship's arriving, and then we go into, the search and rescue mission, and episode 2 ends with the kids boarding the ships to go to that. I mean, if this story had been insisted upon, that's what I would have suggested, because actually there were some really interesting characters in that 5-minute sort of alien reboot section. I quite liked it. I quite liked the fact that we were seeing those different classes. We saw the uniforms again. And I thought this is quite interesting. It's going to be interesting getting to know these people. And I was trying to work out which character type was what. But basically, most of them turned out to be extras, effectively.
One line. A lot of them only just got one line.
Yeah.
And this is a 65-year mission that's on its way back with only 4 months left. And this kid doesn't know what company he works for?
Yeah, I know.
Did they Shanghai him?
It's so clunky.
Wait a minute.
It might be that we might be wrong, and there might be an episode further down the line that goes back and we get a whole thing. And that would be quite cool if we did see all of that and we saw what happened to all of those people. But
there's only 6 episodes left, so they're going to waste
Toxic,
time.
Go on. Sorry, you wanted to say something, Tox. Jump.
Yeah, I just to Rachel's point. So, are you guys saying that you've never worked at a job for a great length of time and then had somebody have to explain to you what your job is and who you work for later on down the line by showing you cards and stuff like that? Is that not normal?
No, man. I've always been superbly brilliant. Walked in the door and just done everything.
I'm pretty sure I knew at least my company name
from day one.
Yeah, their exposition.
And how do they know about Prodigy?
I don't know.
I mean, and the thing
how do they know about Prodigy?
It's 2025, yeah. To 2020 in this film. Alien takes place in 2022. It's a 65-year mission, so we're supposed to believe that this ship launched in 2050.
Yep.
Right.
And I'm like, what? That's 25 years from now. And none of it matches up.
My biggest thing with this is that it could a lot of these issues that we're having with it, and other YouTubers are having with it. Trust me, a lot of these issues could simply be fixed had they had the events of this thing take place subsequent to like Alien 3, but prior to Alien Resurrection, because that's like a whole big deal. I don't know what their obsession with going further and further back in time to do more prequel of a prequel of a prequel. I don't get that. Like, that's not necessary. They could have had, Weyland Yutani became embroiled in it no longer had the monopoly, because in the original movie and in the subsequent sequel of 86 at Aliens, they just refer to Weyland Yutani. They don't call it Weyland Yutani. They call it the company, as if it is the only one, and it is the company, giving it this kind of monolithic, affectation that it's just this large, all-engrossing, the way people would refer to the CIA. He's a company man or the company. So why not have this as like, okay, these, and plus the fact that up to that point, if we follow along, and this is another big plot hole that people are having, and it's one that I kind of have too. The big thing is, like, this is a species no one has ever heard of up to the point that, now granted, you could headcanon the fact that some of these company people had their heads up their asses and other ones were just flat out lying. I get that. But at the same time, I feel like it'd be way too much for there to be the events of Romulus and the events of this show to have been happening before the events of the first Alien movie to, all of that stuff just doesn't sit well. Why not just do it after the events of Alien 3? Ripley basically shut down the Alien program by, and then they discover another way with this other mission. Because of course they had different kind of envoys out there trying to gather up these species and stuff like that. And then the competing companies that are coming up to go against Weyland Yutani would do so as well. That would have worked so much better. I really don't see the point in having, because then it runs afoul. It has that Star Wars problem of, technology that's way too far advanced to the technology that's already been established in the 70s. Why not just push it back? I don't get that. That seems very illogical from a writing standpoint to me.
Yeah. Their own timeline and the progression of technology doesn't make sense.
They've written themselves into a corner, unfortunately.
Yeah. You have Prodigy that has this very advanced technology. And this predates when Weyland Yutani owns the Earth, which is what happens in Alien. They own it. So we're supposed to believe that the more analog technology of Weyland Yutani somehow just completely wipes out Prodigy, that is more advanced and is making these great leaps forward in technology, because they've only existed for a few years compared to Weyland Yutani.
I have a feeling that this story will possibly explain why Prodigy doesn't exist in the future timeline, but we'll see.
Oh, it's going to get nuked. The island's going to get nuked.
I'm going to mention a line in the film, which I think in the second episode, which I think is possibly the dumbest line in the show potentially, and there's quite a few to choose from. So we can have a little survey if we can come up with 4 of them. But one of the dumbest lines for me was when Timothy Oliphant, or who I affectionately refer to as the Elephant, he great actor. He's playing an android or whatever. At some stage, I kind of started losing track of who was a half synth, who was a half cyborg, who is this, whatever. They're a robot. So, and obviously they're very intelligent, like AI is, And he's with his young AI companion, taking the kids on the jaunt through the ship, and they come across the massive, vibrating, very dangerous looking ball sack thing. And after 2 of the kids are told to sort of, you go and wander off down there on your own and potentially get killed, all that stuff really fucking annoys me, because it's always so dumb, as opposed to, watch those corners. He turns around and says to this young kid who's never been out on any kind of mission like this before, see if you can find something to put this dangerous thing in that we don't know at what state of gestation it's in. It's hanging from the ceiling that potentially could consist of organic material that could burn right through our circuits. I mean, these things can't die because they're data essentially in a body. So their data is also stored back at Neverland, so they could be put into another body, sure, but they're also very, very, very expensive, as has been emphasized. So you don't just want to waste them, because they are fucking very expensive technology. You want them to survive. You want them to learn and survive. That's the point of the program. That's why he's developing them, to try and make them super intelligent and all the rest of it, and defeat death and so on and so on and so on. That line was just so fucking stupid. What's he going to do? Even if he was an intelligent person, let's pretend he's a super intelligent guy. You wouldn't say this line to a science officer. Yeah, I'm going to go to the garbage section. I'll get one of the garbage, portable things on a wheelie bin. I'll get a wheelie bin. I'll stick it under the ball sack. Then you know what we'll do? We'll get a big pole with a hook on it. We'll prod it and see if it moves. We'll try and cut it from the top. Let's see if it falls in the garbage bin, and then we'll wheel it off and take it off on the ship. That is so fucking stupid. Now, if a science team had come on board and they'd had all these big various kind of contraptions, or they had that same stuff, that squirty plastic stuff, which was kind of cool. I kind of like that. I thought, yeah, a science team that is coming on to retrieve shit would have technology like that. If they demonstrated that, and that they were going to show that the kids were going to use that to contain and grab things and take them back to wherever, that would have been interesting. That was so fucking stupid. And there were so many lines like that in episode 2. Oh, look, something came out of this person's stomach. Yes,
yeah, that was really, really bad.
You wouldn't say that. It would be more kind of like, Jesus Christ, look at this. It would be a line like that. And
I think it's for people who are looking at their phones. I mean that. I genuinely do think it's for people who are looking at their phones.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, and I just feel that the people that have written this have credit the fact that this is Alien franchise, and you're going to have the majority of the people watching this will be people that want intelligent science fiction. They probably know they're not going to get it, but they're going to give it a go. And those people don't need dialogue like that. I mean, when you look at Alien,
right,
there's very little expositional dialogue in that. You've got things like Mother says the sun's coming up in a minute, but that's not exposition. It's scientific information from the science officer. There's every line in that is more about character and story. This was just diabolical. So much signposting.
It's just a lost art. It really is.
There was a lot of it in the first episode, but the second episode, almost every line was like it.
Yeah. And what's bad is with all the exposition, they also repeat the same exposition over again. Like they don't trust us to remember the relationship between two characters. And they don't let anything breathe long enough for two characters to say, hey, you act like my sister acted. Or have her where she might be afraid of him learning that she's now a synthetic. Have her be nervous about that. And no, we just have little exposition boy shout it out in front of both of them and then run off. I expected him to skip. Like that.
Yeah, his character became.
I'm sick of these characters.
Because I mean, if you were Adrian Edmondson's character, his kind of right-hand stooge guy in the suit who's trying to make sure he makes sensible decisions. This would be a real case of Princes in the Tower. By now, you would have arranged for this young man to have had a bizarre gardening accident and your leg in Neverland whilst walking in the garden, something strange would have happened and lopped off his. Oh no! What a terrible accident, young man! Terrible. Oh look, you've left everything to me. Fantastic.
I got so sick of the kids just going, "Ooh, gross!" Please stop! Please stop!
It's the whole series of adults acting like children. In a situation that you would never send children into. And why? Just because he wants to see what Wendy will do? Because he doesn't say that one of them might become more intelligent. He says Wendy will become more intelligent. He doesn't care about the other 6. He only cares about Wendy coming back.
Given the Peter Pan kind of motif that they're going for, she's the mother of the Lost Boys, so she would be the but she doesn't act like it at all, so you haven't got that kind of maternal feminine energy at all that you've had with previous, it's like Ripley and stuff like that. but they're just so stupid. We're meant to believe they've got supercomputers for brains and that they've had all this training, but they're all total morons. Every single one of them, apart from Wendy, is just a complete idiot. Like they've got that thing, that eyeball under the thing, and he's like, "It's fast." We've just seen you've got super fast reactions, and you're insanely strong. Why are you scared of this thing? I had so many problems with this. It's not true. I really did. And we haven't even got to the plot armor yet.
Don't feel bad. Yeah. I take notes on things I want to talk about. I take notes. I have 8 pages of notes on 2 episodes.
Talking of the other aliens, so we've got the 3-eyed fish from The Simpsons with tentacles, and then then you've got the super leech, which kind of drops down from the ceiling and sucks blood very quickly and turns into a giant balloon. Kind of liked that scene. That reminded me of the Stephen King thing when they're all trapped in the store and that girl gets bit. Yeah, what was it called again? The Mist. The Mist was such a good film. But it was an
effective bit of horror, but I just didn't feel that it did anything.
No,
The Mist.
And think about it.
Serve any purpose at all to the plot.
No, these designs
need to be there.
Yeah. But think about it. These people traveled 65 years.
For another time. That's a discussion for another time.
And I'm still wondering where these eggs came from. And I'm still wondering how the chestbursters got into the crew in the first place, because they were all in cryopods. And it's not like the facehuggers broke into the cryopods, infiltrated them, and then burst out again. I'm just like, what is going on?
No, there was a clear shot where you could see that one of them had. Yeah, they can attach themselves to plastic materials.
Did you not see Alien 3? Did you not see Alien 3?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, but then you would have the acid burn on the cryotube, and you didn't have that. It was just broken and covered in. There was one shot of one. I guarantee you, where you've got like a burn mark of a facehugger going through it. There's a dead facehugger in the tube as well. Okay.
So the emphasis, the note from that is, okay, one facehugger went in, got one person. That person had a chest burster come out. That chest burster grew, got bigger, did other things while the ship was moving, and shit happened.
So we need to know where the 5 eggs have come from then, which are covered in that weird
presumably
mist, which should only have been a thing from the ship from the first film. Why have they got?
Yeah, I mean, presumably from the one that's running around now, although I guarantee there's more than one warrior.
I mean, again, all of these plot nitpicks that we're doing on this, I mean, and there are many, all of these could be solved if this just took place after Alien 3. Like, there's no reason to go backwards in time. Just go forward. They have that huge gap. Isn't it like 100 years from Aliens to Aliens Resurrection or something like that, if I recall correctly, or no?
It's a lot. It's like 70 plus years, I think. Okay. I mean, the thing is, on top of that, at the end of Alien Resurrection, Ripley and all that end up on Earth. So even face it post then, hell, get Sigourney Weaver digitally.
Totally. Yeah, I'll buy that as well. I'll buy that as well.
With all the money they spent on this.
They just muddy the water more and more.
And it really makes me feel bad for Timothy Olyphant, because he's always been one of my favorite actors, and now he's 2 Hulu duds back to back with Justified City Primeval and now this, and I'm just like, Timothy, what is going on, my dude? Who is your agent? What is happening?
He was in Rangers of the New Republic, wasn't he? But then Gina Carano got fired, so he lost that.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, on paper, because Noah Hawley's got some good credits, he's done some great stuff. This on paper, this could have been good, but I think the problem is every time an IP, be it Star Wars or this or whichever one, because we've gone through breakdowns of Star Wars before, and we've looked at the credits, and we've got the same problem, which is you've got a writer's room and a writer's team, and there are 4 or 5 on this show. So even though one person might be credited as the primary writer on one particular episode, they're not the only voice on that episode. There are other writers all contributing their opinions. Then you have the execs who are all contributing their opinions. And before, when you had auteurs, you know, when films were made back in the 80s, or a show like the original Shogun, North and South, these kinds of things, you know, there was always a powerhouse person in charge or behind that show, and that person would have a very clear vision, and the vision was either going to be supported or it wasn't. And of course, then it was up to them where they were going to spend the money and what they were where the money was going to be on the screen. You know, you got all of you're never going to have everything you want. You always got you've got the triangle equation of filmmaking, which is quality, time, and money, and you never have enough of all three of those. Sometimes you get two, but you miss out on the third one. You know, you can rush something, but then you won't have the quality. You can take your time, but then you won't have enough money, and so on and so on. The problem is now is on top of the usual issues you have when you're making anything, regardless of what the budget studio level is, you've now got 20 voices probably at every level, including post-production. Once it's been edited, you know, when the script comes in and stuff. I mean, and this is why the auteurs that have managed to survive, and there's not many of them, Tarantino being the main example, you know, he's putting out stuff that is consistently good by his standards. You might not like him, that doesn't matter, but if you're a fan of Tarantino, you can look at his work and say, this film is good because, this one I like better because, but there's always something, he's making something about them. He's putting his stamp on it. I think when creators are coming into a franchise like this, they might have a vision like that. They might have a great vision, but it's probably getting so diluted by the time it gets to the shooting stage. You're already in a bit of a spaghetti mess, and then you're going to get diluted even further as you go along, and then you may even get some actors that bring in agendas and things. So you, depending on what level those actors are, you know, certainly some stars will have a say, and that's always been the way. I mean, that's been in Hollywood. You know, Steve McQueen would always try and change his lines, beef up his part, do this, do that. That's all normal stuff. But when this is happening at every level of production, that's a recipe for fucking disaster every single time. And unfortunately, that's what's happening at the moment.
It's got 22 producers.
Well, there we are. That's 22 opinions plus the writers. So that's, you know, I don't know how many of the writers have also got producer credits. Probably not all of them, because some of them definitely don't. The other thing I wanted to say about the image that's on screen now is this alien, which is I think a fixed costume for a promotion at the premiere or whatever, actually looks better than the one that's in the show.
Yes,
it does.
God, that looks bad at times. Really bad.
It's so
I really like
flat.
this one.
Quite shocked.
It is,
Quite
isn't
shocked
it?
at how
Well,
fake
what?
it looks. Yeah.
I think it's a person in a suit some of the time. Other times
I think so.
animatronics, and then other times it's CGI. And you can always
That's
tell
another
the CGI
thing.
shot.
The bit where it jumps through the glass bit at the top and somehow fails to kill the brother again. That's awful CGI.
Actually,
how many times is this dude going to get close to die?
It's crazy.
You know what would have been really great
Really?
with that bit is, as he turned up and he went to fire his gun, it would have been great if he'd shot it, he'd hit it several times, all the acid had spouted out his body, come and drenched him, killed him, he died, it had died. That was, you know, definitely a case of too many cooks. Absolutely. You can feel it in this project. There is some really good, strong ideas in this show, and I think most of them probably came from Hawley himself. But...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like there could be something good here, but I just don't trust modern. Well, I don't trust Disney for a start, but I just don't trust modern writing. Anything like this just doesn't get a chance.
Going back to the weak security team for a second. So just as an example, right, the dialogue when they're going to the mission, it was utterly atrocious. What those guys would have been talking about is you would have had dialogue like this. What do you think caused the crash? I don't know, but I've heard that ship is the same one that launched 25 years ago, I saw that documentary. Did you see that documentary? No, I don't know anything about it. I heard they're going to do this. Somebody else would come in with, I don't know. And then the sergeant might say, look, shut the fuck up. You know, we're taking guns for a reason. We don't know what's happened. There could be hostages. This could be an act of piracy. This could be an act of war. You guys have to be ready for everything. Our primary objective is to save lives. But secondly, you know, but
and then
also,
one of them responds with, I hear you, Sarge, but you know, remember we're low level security. Like, we're not colonial Marines, man. Shut the fuck up, you know, like that.
And then you get a chance for some characterization and some exposition at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been very easy to have a nice character defining conversation with them for 2 minutes. We could have had 2 minutes less of Neverland and Disney clips of past films.
Yes.
You hear that, Disney? Let me and Lance rewrite your script for you. We'll fix this shit in a hot minute. How about that?
You know,
I could have.
You know what really would have been nice?
Go for it.
If some of the people on the security force had a personality.
Yep.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Look at the banter.
Just look at the Marines. Everything
the
that
black
Hudson
woman
says informs his character. Everything Hudson says informs his character. Everything Hicks says and everything Hicks does informs his character. In this, people speak and we know nothing about them. Like Lance said, they're all in like because of Benetton. If they weren't, I wouldn't be able to tell them apart. They're all identical.
That's the truest thing I have heard so far. I mean, you know, when you take something like Aliens 86 and you know the whole you know the drop, and you've got Hudson screaming and loving it, and you've got, you know, Ripley is kind of just tolerating it, and you've got the lieutenant looks like he just pooped and peed his pants at the same time, and you got Hicks is completely asleep because he's been there, done that, and this doesn't bother him, that kind of thing. And you got the whole, you know, Burke trying to like make nice with everybody, and the whole idea with the cameras on the helmets and the, you know, the microphones thing, which back in 86, I remember that being such like a crazy, hell, even when I went to boot camp, that was like a crazy idea, but now it's like a literal thing that can actually happen with body cams and stuff like that. But then, you know, like everything from the pilot doing a maneuver that, you know, and having her own little lingo 5x5 and all that shit, you know, like all of that stuff informs on who, and then right there, and you know, you get the gruff sergeant that, you know, is both funny, warm, endearing, but also a hard ass at the same time, and all of that stuff, and you know, gives you who you know, it's the whole show don't tell. But again, that's prime Cameron, and this is, I don't even, you know, I guess Holly, but at the same time, you know, production by committee. So, you know, make of that what you will, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I teach people, because I teach people to write dialogue for a living, and one of the first things I teach them is every line of dialogue in your script has to serve one of two masters, and those two masters are story and character. So you're either telling them something more about the story, i.e., hey, I heard this shit went out on a mission, blah blah blah, or did you see that documentary? You know, because I watched it the other night, and So, I mean, if a character says a simple line like that, one, you're showing that the character's got some degree of intelligence because they like watching and researching historical topics. Two, you've just informed the audience that, you know, this shit went on a mission whenever, and this guy's recounting that piece of information. Then, like Toxic said, if another character comes back and says, you know, just to remind you, sir, we haven't all done 3 years, you know, a year at boot camp and 2 years on the front lines like you did on Mars. You know, Jones here has only works at security at Mega Mall on the moon. I mean, that would have been a great line, and they, you know, then they would have like laughed collectively, and it's like, okay, now we know that this is not a competent team of military fools. These are weekend warriors with guns that have been stuck in an oh shit situation that they don't realize is oh shit.
There's no camaraderie. There's no character dynamics. There's just nothing. There is absolutely nothing to these people.
Right.
Yeah, even the kids. I'm getting a slight Lambert impression from the ginger one. That's it. That's all I'm getting.
Yeah, we're not gonna care about any of them when we die. The only character that is interesting there is Wendy. Babu Sasi's character is interesting, but he's not a character that we're supposed to like. He's just interesting to watch because it's sort of like, okay, what's going to happen with him? And he's a great actor.
And it's weird because they could do a bit more there as well, because he's a cyborg. He's not an android. He's a human with.
Yeah,
he must have motivations. Is he after money? Is he?
I find his character really, really confusing because he behaves like Ash, but he is actually also human.
Yeah.
So I just, and then the whole thing about him suddenly knowing that somehow that the alien's female. I mean, maybe that information was somehow determined via other means, but that seemed like nonsense. Fortunately, qualified scientist has just arrived, and he's here to explain why that piece of information was known. It's blue collar loser.
Like, if you're an android, you can't drink. That's life sucks, man.
It's the information at the bottom of the whiskey bottle.
Never make it.
Blue, my first question to you was: were you driving that ship that crashed at the beginning? Was that you behind the wheel?
I may or may not drink often behind the wheel, and I never crashed. No accidents.
There you go.
No,
that wasn't your Uber service in the future.
Like you guys seen with lore, I think the problem with Alien, Predator, all these major franchises is that what's considered lore anymore. When I first started watching episode 1, I'm like, you know what, this isn't canon to Alien because yes, when you watch the first film, Sigourney Weaver and the crew, they've never heard of a xenomorph. If we're led to believe that these things landed on Earth 100 years ago, everybody would have fucking known about xenomorphs landing on Earth and facehuggers. So this is its own separate timeline because it already doesn't make sense. Plus, Bishop and the other synthetics and stuff, they're never, the technology of turning a human being or their consciousness into a synthetic, that never happened. So it doesn't make any sense that the future doesn't go backwards in technology. It should be more advanced. So
are you suggesting a multiverse?
I said I just take this is its own separate timeline because we're just doing it now. It's like,
I think unfortunately when it comes to these kind of things, especially with Alien and Predator, I guess, and as much as it sucks, you do have to stop being precious about it. It sucks, but I think you kind of have to. It's like Star Trek.
I can not be precious about it too much because there are some things that are upsetting some people that I don't mind so much. But one of the things I just can't forgive is extremely poor writing and extremely poor dialogue.
I agree, Lance.
That's just across the board in any drama whatsoever. Stuff that's this clunky is really, really hard to forgive, or indeed.
You know what's funny is that Hulu actually, I don't know who all has Hulu here. I don't. I have Plex, but I mean, I get a lot of Hulu content in my Plex. That said, Hulu has a lot of great original stuff. It has a lot of good movies. It has a lot of good TV shows, and those tend to be like me and Blue Collar did. No One's Coming to Save You a couple years ago with Dudicus. That was a Hulu original, and I thought it was freaking excellent. But then you have Hulu doing this City Primeval Justified reboot sequel type situation, which was just an abomination and it was terrible to get through with that. Again, Timothy Olyphant. And then it's had other stuff. Tell Me Lies is a great show, really well done original program. Their anthology series of Cruel Summer I thought was great, but the stuff where they keep trying to reboot or redo or sequel up IPs that have been well established, Hulu needs to leave it the F alone. Like stick to original content. And I know that's been said a million times, but I think the results prove out my theory. I think that I think that the proof is in the pudding here. It shows that Hulu just leave these IPs alone, man. I mean, Prey was decent enough. I guess. And again, I know that's debatable and it's highly contestable. I get it, and if you didn't like it, cool. I thought it was a good.
I enjoyed it. It was an above average Predator movie. It was fine. It wasn't. It was.
But I people that were saying it was better than the second one I was like, you're on crack, mate.
No chance.
They're friggin' nuts.
Yeah. Okay, I'm coming on camera for a second. If I can ask my guests to pause their thoughts. So, Blue, you've not been on the channel for a while. I have a little surprise for you.
All right, everybody, cameras up.
This is my latest book, and this is at the back of the book, and it's hard for you to see, but in this text, you'll see there's a whole thank you section.
Oh,
says
shit.
about my gang on YouTube, and your name is here.
Does
The
it say Chris or
Nielsen
Blue?
ratings, there you go, the Nielsen ratings gang. And you can see Stepenzo, look, there's Rachel Percy art there, Lou Collar Luther. You haven't even been on for ages. Still thank you.
No Lord Toxic, huh?
I genuinely thought
in-
that was just going to say some
That's the
crazy
way-
alcoholic
You know
from
what,
the
I knew
north.
that. I knew that thing was coming from No Lord Toxic. Actually, your name is mentioned in the book, and there's a whole chapter on YouTube as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I told you, Lance. Well, I'm always in the chat either way. So.
This is the latest proof copy
Nice.
of the book, and there is a big section on YouTube. The thank yous list, by the way, is 4 pages at the back.
Nice.
Of name.
Good lord.
So yeah. So
Well, Lance, I always say it's no secret. You can put down, you can say blue collar Chris. I don't give a shit and say thanks, Chris. And so I don't care. I don't take the YouTube stuff that seriously. Where it's like, how dare you say it? Like that's what I said.
You've lost a bit of weight.
I mean, the cholesterol. I did a cholesterol check and my blood pressure. I basically dropped like 80 points off my cholesterol and blood pressure. Just changing up diet, man. Like we hit a point, man. We're in our 40s now.
Nice.
Like I still eat cheeseburgers. I'm just not eating 5 a day like I was before.
Right.
I mean, I'm still eating bacon, just not as much bacon. That's all. But yeah, I'm still the funny part again.
I definitely don't recommend the 5 a day cheeseburger diet.
It was five cheeseburgers a day. Now it's only 3 double cheeseburgers a day.
Of course, first thing Doc's like, he's like, Chris, got your blood work back. I'm like, yeah, just curious, Doc, how's my liver? He goes, well, surprisingly, your liver functions are fantastic. Why do you ask? I'm like, no reason. He's like, do you drink a lot? My doc, define a lot. He's like, your liver's great. I'm like,
that reminds me, as I mentioned it yesterday, good news. I got the sort of medical thumbs up at the hospital this morning. So
nice.
Excellent.
Once again,
fantastic.
Yeah, it was good news. I was a bit worried when the first thing they asked me as soon as I arrived was, so can we update your next of kin? And I was, can we just check that's up to date? Can we check the next of kin details? Literally as soon as I came through the door, and I was thinking, like, have they just seen some results? It's just like, well, what's going on here? And I was really disconcerted, actually. I had to make sure. And funny enough, actually, they had the wrong next of kin down. They didn't have Jason at this particular hospital, which I try and avoid at all costs because it's nicknamed the Hospital of Death. So, but anyway, Blue, what would you, when you saw the first episode, without I take it you've seen both. When you saw the first episode, were you hopeful?
Well, at first, I mean, because Lance, I'm always sympathetic in a sense that Hulu, I like it when studios spend money, like House of the Dragon season 2. As much as we have problems with that, boy, HBO, the Dragons, we agreed on Atlanta. The Dragons looked fantastic. House of Dragon.
I liked season 2.
Yeah,
House of Dragon. It was good.
Yeah, Hulu definitely spent some good money. And like even Drinker said in his video, I'm watching like, what, this looks like Alien 1. I'm liking the aesthetics. Timothy Olyphant looks great.
Yeah,
everything's looking great.
It's really good in the show.
Yeah,
sure.
and I feel like they're not going to change. They're not going to tackle these ideas because it does make you wonder, like, okay, what is it to be human? Once you stop eating, once you stop drinking, once you stop going to the bathroom, like it's small pleasures. Like sometimes everybody's waking up like, man, I got to pee really bad and it feels good. If that's removed from your life, what is it to be human? Also, humans, our frontal lobes don't start growing until we're 25. If you take a 10-year-old into a robot body, okay, there was one kid says to the girl, he's like, why can't we when I grow up? Thing is, he's never going to grow up because his brain now will not keep having those chemicals released and growing and growing. So essentially, you are going to be forever a 10-year-old stuck in an adult body. But I feel like the show, then it gets to episode 2 where it's like, hey, instead of tackling these very heavy ideas, let's get into monster film of the week, and now we're overusing the xenomorph. I do like the ideas, Lance, but the problem is the execution's not following that. And as people said, throwing a 10-year-old, I don't care how advanced they are, still putting a 10-year-old, you're not going to have a 10-year-old operate a $30 million drone. There's a reason the military is 18 and up. We don't have 12-year-olds fucking flying bombs over Ukraine, Afghanistan. Technology or not, these are still kids in these billion-dollar bodies, but still, they're still children. They shouldn't be fighting. They're not mentally equipped. I don't care how much whatever technology they got, they're still children.
And they prove it time after time after time, as well as They're not mature. As I say, I would prefer this show if it wasn't about aliens. I really would, because it has got some cool ideas.
But also, Lance, as I'm watching it, and I know like Toxic was saying earlier, yes, the security guards aren't trained soldiers, but the premise, like, if one xenomorph lands on Earth, let's be honest, 5 people with machine guns they're not that fucking hard to kill. I mean, they're stronger, they bleed acid, but 2 people with a shotgun can kill a xenomorph. Most xenomorphs are what, 6 feet tall? They can be fast, but an average pistol can kill a xenomorph.
Well, I mean, they have good defensive capabilities for certain, and if you hit them the wrong way, too close, you're going to get splashed with that acid. It's their. I think it's more their offensive capabilities.
Let's talk about another major issue I have with this show, particularly episode 2. This goes back to the alien. The alien's purpose is to capture organic beings alive, incapacitate them, but they have to be living in order to be a viable host for the facehugger stage. And for whatever reason, we're introduced to the Monty Python party at one point in episode 2. Literally,
had they not know a spaceship had crashed into their building?
Do you know what? Somebody had watched Slipstream with Mark Hamill. I guarantee you, before they wrote that scene, went, I've got an idea. I'm going to have these rich people that are kind of oblivious to everything going on, and they're going to be like they're in the middle of a party and they're all dressed up in this kind of strange Edwardian clobber. Honestly, it was nonsense, but because they would be the first people to fucking flee the scene. They're somebody somewhere on a device somewhere would have gone, hey, by the way, guys, the spaceship's crashed into the building. Why don't we go and continue this at my party in the Hamptons? My place in the Hamptons. I would have jumped in the ship and fucked off. Just thought that was
even a scene in the episode where
it goes and kills them all. Sorry, before we get distracted, it goes and kills them all. It goes into the room, it kills them all like it's fucking Jason from a Friday the 13th movie. This is bullshit.
Less than a minute. Less than a minute.
Didn't even have any weapons. So
especially when there's eggs.
Yeah, it's not like it went to kill them.
You need human hosts for the eggs.
I can forgive it killing a Marine with a gun. A Marine with a gun is a threat. You're going to want to either incapacitate it or take it out, maybe lop its head off. But you've got a bunch of civilians with no guns in a room. That's fucking egg fodder right there.
So I hate to defend the show in any way, but unfortunately, I got to push back on that. So I guess you're forgetting some of the alien lore.
Is it a mild pushback, or is it like a prison proper pushback hard against the wall type situation?
Oh, you don't want none of that, sugar tits. I can promise you that. You don't want that. No, it's a mild pushback, but it's so the aliens, the way that they're designated is that the ones that are drones that work for the queen and she needs serviceable hosts, those ones will be grabbers and grab people and put them in unless they're too much of a hostile threat, and then put them in the cocoon type situation to be face hugged and all that stuff. Like in Alien 3, that one wasn't interested at all in he just wanted the meat. In fact, that's a line that Ripley says, the alien will stay close to where the meat is at. The ones in Resurrection, much the same. They were just out to conquer and destroy. They weren't that much looking for they didn't have a queen that was that much looking for that kind of situation. And conversely, you have, whether you believe that it's canon or not, the Alien versus Predator stuff, you had the one that did want to, breed, and, the hybrid thing that wanted to breed and turn all the pregnant women into, incubators.
I mean, you're moving into dangerous territory when you start citing these films as
we don't use that as an example.
I'm just pointing out that different aliens, and I don't want to bring up the comic books or the side novels and stuff like that, but different xenomorphs do perform different functions. So we knowing from Alien and then Aliens 86, we know that we are entirely trying, their whole purpose to serve the queen was to give her viable hosts and stuff like that to do that with, to breed out and do that. But that's not always their primary function. So
well, I mean, I guess we'll find that out when we see how many adult aliens there actually are, because at the minute we don't actually know.
Those eggs must have come from somewhere.
Well, indeed.
I see what you did there.
Well, you're right. At some point, the queen does have to leave the eggs.
Something we haven't seen yet.
I see what you did there. Are we just gonna spend the rest of the episode quoting a better movie? We could do that. Fucking A, man. Fucking A. I was getting short too. Okay. 2 more months and out.
But yeah, I wanted to say that the Boy Genius actually says triage them by income. So when that guy says, "Oh, I'm waiting to hear from Boy Genius," because he knows him personally, pretty sure he would have been told that a spaceship had crashed into his building and maybe to evacuate.
You know what? I missed that line. Actually, I missed that line. Triage them by income. I like that line.
He says
that's a good
line. Just when Wendy leaves, he's speaking to Adrian Edmondson's character, which is triage by income.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that's what I said earlier. In terms of like whatever's canon at this point, I watch a show as it is because what's canon, the comics, the video games, the prequels, the Alien vs Predator spinoffs. Just watch the film or the show as is because and it's becoming the biggest problem with comics as well. Star Wars, everything now is just there's too much fucking lore, too much explanations. It just that's why we like the first film. It's one xenomorph and that's it. We don't know where it came from, male or female, what reproduces. It's just one. The second one, there's more of them, but so Colonial Marines got to fight more because again, 10 Colonial Marines would drop one in about 2 seconds, but 10 Colonial Marines versus 1,000, different story. And it probably should just end with part 2. But now they're at the point where they've written too much lore. Now they have like alien dogs and alien flying aliens and whatever trisexual aliens, like all weird shit, man. Like
I think the sad thing is that even if you take all that out of it, this show just isn't very good. Even if you completely ignore all the canon breaks, it's just not written well.
No, it isn't. I mean, that is the biggest problem. You know what? If the writing was really good and we actually had a good script and with characters making logical and sensible decisions, and don't get me wrong, I know that people have frailties and we don't always make the sensible and right decisions. But the problem is that when it's a show packed full of a big range of characters that are all making and doing consistently stupid things, it just undermines the reality of that narrative. You just don't believe it.
This was a point I was trying to get across the other night on the weapons stream. It's just like I forgave a lot in weapons. I forgave a lot of plot holes and stupidity just because the acting, the cinematography, the soundtrack, the writing, all of that was very, very good. So the few plot holes that it had that were glaring, the small ones and the large, I was able to just look past it and still give it a solid 9. But this is not the case with this show. I can tell you.
That's nearly exactly what I've just written in my review, actually, because there are plot holes in weapons. But
well, stop plagiarizing me, Al.
Hey, but I wrote that first, honestly, like ages ago.
You wrote it first, after he watched your review. It was first.
It's like it's like you can forgive, like Deadpool and Wolverine, for example. There are some serious writing problems with that film. It falls apart if you think about it for too long. But I was having too much fun laughing at the violence and the dick jokes to care. And that's the thing. It's the sleight of hand, isn't it? If you can entertain somebody enough, they won't see the holes. You're seeing the holes everywhere in this because you just
because it's cumulative. It's did I walk away from this entertained? Did I enjoy more than and again, and I was chided for this, and I admit it on Nadia's stream the other night. Sometimes I look at it with my content creator brain, and I had other YouTube people saying, well, I have to go into certain things and just shut my YouTube brain off. And I get that. I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time.
I wish
now.
I could.
I have a hard time now. Like if I keep finding one too many plot holes. Now, ironically, like with military stuff, I'm able to not like just go, the MP5 doesn't do that at that cyclic rate. That's not correct. I'm not one of those a-holes. But at the same time, if it's glaring, I'll probably at least give it a mention. Like someone like adjusts a safety on a Glock. A Glock doesn't have a safety or something.
You're a different kind of a-hole.
Yeah, just some kind of a-hole.
Yeah, it doesn't have to ruin anything, does it? That's the thing. It doesn't have to completely ruin your immersion,
you can
enjoyment.
You can still enjoy it, and then and it has like some of the best movies in the world have and TV shows have like massive plot holes. I love the Shield, but there's no way Vic Mackey would have gotten away with that stuff for 20 something years or however long his career had spanned, especially the really, really dirty parts. There's no way he would have gotten away with all of that stuff. And, you know, Indiana Jones, you know, he had no effect on the story at all, but I still like watching, you know, the movie. Back to the Future has massive plot holes. You know,
but that's the sleight of hand, isn't it? You distract the audience with waving one hand, and then they don't see the other part until they look really.
Well, I mean, also, you know, all of those examples have so much about them that's so good.
And that was my point.
That's what Toxic is saying. You can forgive flaws when something is really, really, really good. Yeah. I want to bring up something else because I think it's relevant to this stream. Means we can stop talking about this annoyingly shitty show, and I say that reluctant. I was
thinking too. Remember, like last year, you know, Yumi covered the Acolyte, and the whole premise of the Acolyte was
God bless you guys.
What's the premise is like, you know, we go 100 years before the Luke Skywalker and the Skywalkers, whatever that era, so we can start fresh. So like nobody would have cared if the Acolyte was written well. People wouldn't have cared if it wasn't tied to the films. But me and Lance gave it a chance, and that's a prime example. If that show was written well, we all would have loved it. We didn't care if it wasn't tied to the bigger canon. It was just a badly written show.
We did give it a chance, and it was a very painful chance indeed. I want to talk about this. So this alien object has been confirmed as approaching Earth by a number of independent and credible sources now, including NASA. It's the dot in the middle, and it's expected to arrive at Earth sometime, I think, around the first week of November. And as you know, I'm very interested in UFOs, and actually it's very much my hope that the big event that I'll live to see in my lifetime is the coming of another race to Earth. You know, various top level scientists, and I've gone through literally over 30 different stories from different sources. You know, you're talking very high level people, top astronomers from all over the world have stepped up and said, because of the speed this thing is calculated to be moving at, because of the trajectory this thing has, there's only a 2% chance, and some people have put it less than that this thing is not man-made, or not man-made, but it's a natural phenomenon. In other words, there's a 98% chance that this is an object that is crewed or functioning with some sort of form of alien intelligence / intelligent navigation. So it's funny because this is a massive story that has lots of people all over the world jumping up and down saying, this is happening, guys. This object is going to pass by very close to Earth in November. I'm not understanding why this is not a story that's, well, I am, but there's another part of me that's going, why the fuck are the main news channels not talking about this already? This is massive. And this object is big as well. It's not, you know, it's not the size of a football. It's several miles across. So it's not.
I would imagine that people have a hard time living in the Independence Day version of our real world simulation when gas and food are so expensive and a lot of people are living on the streets. I think I would welcome our new alien overlords to take over the world and remove DEI and all the other bullshit. And just let me know when I have to stop working. That's
bring it on. I hope they've got some good writers.
I've heard that they're going to
make eggs cheaper.
I've heard they're going to take over the running of ice. So I look forward to seeing how that works out.
I hate to tell you this, it's a race of giant spiders, so you know, just be prepared.
I mean, it could be, in which case we're all about to be.
When they say take me to your leader, you know, I'm right here.
This could be the story before the food line. Do you remember humans were all food once? That's
oh god, yeah.
But no,
hopefully, you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me.
You have heard about this, right? You have heard about this from one means or another. Maybe not a main news.
The pending alien invasion or whatever, the object.
No, about this object. It's
yeah.
We got it. I already know. We
talked about it once before.
Yeah,
we got to go to SeaWorld. We got to go to SeaWorld and get some some humpback whales named George and Gracie.
George and Gracie,
and they need to communicate with the device, and we'll all be fine.
Fantastic. Yep, we call that.
It's a different version. It's a sea turtle called George, but yeah.
What a lot of the floaty philosophical dialogue in Alien Earth reminded me of was actually Rings of Power, where it's trying to sound smart and it's not doing well.
Flummox Buffoon is asking, are we talking about Apopis, which is one of the many names? Everybody's trying to name this thing, which is quite funny. Some people have called it IQ7 or something, and someone's called it something else. Somebody else has called it Apopis. Yes, we are talking about that. And then here you go. This is another name for it. It's this 3-eye atlas. Someone else has called it that. So, but it is real. It's coming, So, I need to know exactly when it's roughly supposed to pass by, so that we can do like a whatever it's called, Probis or whatever the thing's called. We can call it a Probis welcome stream. Alien Probis welcome
you've seen
stream.
Those,
that sounds so wrong.
Where discovery of another life in the universe unites humanity.
I honestly believe
like Star Trek.
That event would diminish conflict on the world by a substantial portion. I mean, it wouldn't end it in a day, but if suddenly a ship landed on the White House lawn tomorrow, an alien stepped out and said, right, tell us what's going on here. We'd like to get to know you. I think
unfortunately, I think it'd be more like The Simpsons. I bring you love. It's bringing us love. Kill it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But yeah, that was such a good episode, by the way. But,
November, yeah.
I mean, you see, I think if something did arrive and it was there and it was up in the sky and it proved to be intelligent and it started to try to communicate with us, suddenly every country would be like, oh, we need to make a good impression. Got visitors. We need to go. Maybe just put those guns away, guys, for a little bit. If you could, don't bomb Gaza today. Don't in Russia, don't target the fire engines today, says Putin. Don't target the Ukrainian.
You think it would give us a little bit of a sense of scale, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
humanity's not that important after all.
No, I know. For me, that would be a massive, massive good thing for the human race right now. It needs to be humbled a bit. I think there's too much shit. We've not evolved. We really haven't evolved. We're going backwards at the moment. Too much nonsense. Conflicts over this, that, and the other. And it should have been less and less conflicts by the time we're in 2025. We should have evolved since the 1980s. There's as many wars as there were then, if not more.
So more AI lands, more robots.
We've advanced technologically, but sensibly, wise, not so much.
China's going to have the
maybe
first.
This is an AI device that we sent, that our future selves sent us, that's now coming back round into the path.
Yeah, we're about to have.
Like rival.
Yeah.
The big squids are coming back to tell us what we're doing wrong.
See, this is why I don't like streams like
really
this.
Like nuts if this ship turned up and it said there is a far-flung conflict in the galaxy that will destroy humanity in 5 years. We have assessed the entire human race and have decided this team of individuals must come aboard our ship to fight in order to save the universe. And they list off a whole load of YouTubers. That'd be fucking hilarious.
Yes, we've analysed your your transmission waves, and these appear to be your most worshipped.
Bring up the Lord of Toxicity. He is the most dangerous one of you.
We have analysed the historical document.
It'll be interesting.
But,
as it gets closer, more people will cover it as well. It will.
I'm more gripped by this story than I am Alien Earth right now, which says it all, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap up soon. I said I was only going to do this for an hour. It is so hot and sweaty here right now. I honestly, if I had a fan, it would be pointing in the nether regions.
Yes.
But
lovely.
Yeah.
Regretting sitting next to my snake's tank.
Oh yeah.
It's been great having a panel on to talk about this show. I'm going to ask my panelists to combine their points out of 10 for episodes 1 and 2 together and give me an overall rating of the show so far. So potentially you could give the show 20 out of 20 if you were rating both episodes 10 out of 10, which I know for Blue will be a particular conundrum. Does he go that far or not? But yes, give that some thought. We will do a final rating.
I hate to say, Blue, that is more than you've got fingers. So you might,
True. Yeah.
I'd give the first episode. I would give the first episode a decent 5 because there were some really interesting things. All falls apart in the second episode. Can't give the second episode any more than 3. 1 point for some good acting, 1 point for some good production design, and 1 point for some other stuff. So yeah, it has to be 8 out of 20 from me. There you go. So Rachel, what do you give? How many Joneses out of 20 do you give this?
Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be -1 because of that cat scene.
Yeah, exactly. Give it a 0 just for the cat. No, I was underwhelmed by the ending of the first episode, so I ended up giving that a 4. And the second episode, I hated because of how stupid everything was, how poorly it was all written. So that ended up being a 3.
Then the cat scene came on, and you gave it 9 out of 10. Is that right?
No, that almost made me quit watching it. I was like, that was pointless. That was just pointless gore porn. I didn't need that. But, I'd give it a 7. If they improve on it, that might go up, but I really don't think they're going to improve on it.
Yeah, I'm not planning on doing a weekly review of this show, but what I will do is we'll get to the end, and when they do the last episode, I think we'll get everybody back on. Wow, I've just had a $20 super chat come in from Flummoxed Buffoon 87. I'm assuming you might have been born in 87, sir or madam. Most doomers believe this is the result of the Dark Woods theory. The universe level 4 species chose to eradicate known life as soon as detected, like a hunter in a dark forest that shoots as soon as it sees a threat. Okay, so that might be why the alien ship is heading towards us. It's comforting.
Yeah, we had a good run.
I don't have to worry about that 39th birthday. Then
they saw Alien Earth, and they were like, "Yeah, this species just isn't worth it. Get rid of them now."
By the way, sir, thank you for the super chat, and welcome to the channel, because I haven't seen you comment in the chat before. If you have subscribed, I appreciate it, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself tonight. So I do appreciate you coming and also spending some money. That's very, very, very kind.
It would be pretty funny if Disney was actually wound up being our demise.
Toxic, what's your
how we treated aliens?
Toxic, what's your potential rating out of 20 for this show thus far?
Yeah, so to caveat on what you said, I mean, it does start off strong. It's got some pretty interesting concepts. But, like I said the other night, you can't judge a thing on what it could be or what ifs. You have to judge it on what it is. So judging out of what it is, like you said, it does fall apart in the second episode. Now, granted, it could come back, but, I was burnt really, really bad by True Detective season 4, where I was put off.
Indeed.
I was put off by it. And then the second episode and the third episode redeemed it a little bit, and then it went completely off the rails. So, I mean, more and more as these things go by, it becomes harder and harder to give it a chance. So ultimately, I have to go a solid 5 for episode 1. Episode 2, I can't go any higher than a 2 in good conscience. So 7 in total.
Blue Collar, you're muted, sir.
Yeah. No, I'll go you, Lance. I'll say 8 total. I said 5 interesting ideas. I hope the rest of the season they stick the landing, but 2 was a big downgrade. But I'll keep watching because it's on Tuesday night, 45 minutes. So I'll be at the gym or something, or on treadmill watching it. But yeah, we only have 6 more to go, Lance, and it's very few shows can pick up after a very bad episode 2. It's hard to think that 6 more episodes.
We learned that from the Acolyte, and that was also the case.
Yeah,
good to know you'll be at the gym whipping that colonial marine body into shape as he sips his big jumbo Pepsi.
It's 0, okay? Mine's myself.
Right. It still looks fizzy and sickly.
Save us from the alien.
Very good. Well, Critical, did you give a rating? Did you do your rating yet?
No, not yet. I said yesterday on the Nielsen report that I was at a 5 out of 10 after the first episode, and it could go up or it could go down, and it went down. The second episode was just absolutely awful. Any promise that I saw in the show has just completely evaporated. So
that mean your rating has stayed at 5? Yeah.
No, I mean, it wasn't as good as the first episode, and I didn't think the first episode was great. I'm pretty much with Toxic on this one. I'm at a 5 and then a 2, so I give it 7 overall. Right. I will carry on watching it, but I'm actually more interested to see what song they put in the credits than I am in the episode itself.
I will just remind people before we sign off, if you happen to be a Londoner who's got insomnia, or indeed someone from the UK, you can book to come and see my next stage show about the making of The Magnificent Seven. It's booking now. We're already rehearsing. In fact, I was with one of the actors rehearsing today. And it's already at 25% sold. That's the information on the link. Everything you need to know about the show is there. There's only 6 shows. I will be at every single one of them because I'm also in the play, playing John Sturges, the film's director. Just to let you know, there's a bit of a YouTubers meetup happening on the Sunday. I think there's about 4 YouTubers going already to the Sunday performance, which is the last one. So if you're in the UK, if you want to meet Spider Warlord, he won't have any spiders in tow. It's under strict instruction.
Okay, no spiders. Right, fair enough.
Do come down. So if you've got a dead spider you want him to sign, that could happen. Yeah. Amadeus Dread, who I have seen in the chat before, says, I'm rather baffled by some of the mainstream critical positive reviews and comments this series has been getting. I mean, I'd be really reluctant to review it in a mainstream article until I'd seen all the episodes. I've
seen some YouTubers who seem to be giving it a bit of an easy ride due to the IP. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do that. I want to take it on its merits, and its merits is it's really badly written.
Well, it was trending at 8.2 on IMDb yesterday, and it had about 170 reviews up. It's now down to 8. As I said before, if you look on the reviews on IMDb, the first 50 or so reviews are all gushing praise. Some of them are genuine, some of them are not. They're from single accounts, but once you go past those, you keep going, then there's just one person after another having a proper pop at it. I think most of these reviews were just from episode 1, because episode 1 was pretty interesting, was pretty captivating. There was a lot of stuff that I liked, but episode 2 really let it down, I felt. But we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll pull it back. One man's show can be another man's acolyte. Don't tempt me, Frodo. Okay, thanks very much for everyone. Great to see Blue Collar back. It just feels like that's been way too long, sir. Way too long.
I saw nobody too.
We'll catch you all again at the Nielsen ratings on Tuesday. As I explained at the beginning of this stream, there's not a lot of other stuff happening on my channel at the moment. It's not that I don't want to do it. It's just I am really busy with the play, the book, and the film, and someone else's book and someone else's script at the moment. So I am juggling a lot of balls right now. Literally, 2 of which are very sweaty. So on that bombshell.
The Outcasts Crew, interviews with fellow artists on the rise, and reviews that might surprise. Films, TV shows from back in the day. You might just find a hidden gem today. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcasts Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance